All right, then we'll go right into the approval of minutes, March 12th.
I make a motion to approve.
Got a motion, do I have a second? Yeah. All right, I have a second. All in favor?
And because you're virtual, you actually need to roll call all votes.
Okay, we will roll call the vote.
And just so I get it, Charlotte, don't panic if you miss anything because Greg's recording this and can send you the recording.
Okay.
Oh, Charlotte, you can go to sleep now, so you're fine.
Okay, I'll see you later.
So we had a motion by Laura, a second by Eric. Roll call vote, Laura?
Alden, yes.
Eric?
Eric, I'll say yes, but I don't think I can vote. I wasn't there.
No, he wasn't there.
You were not.
I don't
Cheryl?
know why.
I need to abstain. I was not there.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now we have that issue where two of us can vote and we won't have a quorum by doing so. So we have two absentees or two abstains, and I would roll call vote yes. So that leaves us with two. Do we need to hold this to the next meeting?
I guess so.
Do we have to?
We can hold. I think there are other folks who have had people who weren't there vote if they felt comfortable voting. We have had that on occasion, so we can go either way.
Well,
I've
go
read
ahead.
through it. I'll vote yes if that makes life easier.
I'm the majority of the people that were there that are voting yes. I mean, I'm good with it if everybody else is good with it.
I'm good with it.
I'm
Okay.
good with it.
So that would be two yeses and two abstains. That will pass it.
Okay.
Financial report.
Okay, I'm gonna give you all kinds of what we know, what we don't know. I'll ramble on a little bit, but then we'll get moving. So you have the report for about a week or so ago. And I wanted to highlight a couple of things, bullets on the front. So we all know you voted up to 225,000 of school choice to get through. We're clearly not going to use all of that. We knew that early on when we had some staffing changes and there was going to be some funds left. There's a couple of funky things happening this year. Well, just a couple. So one thing I wanted you all to know is what we did with transportation, because both the feds and the commissioner kind of across the states and the federal government immediately when we closed was starting to lobby for some particular vendors, specifically transportation. They were supporting still paying the vendors in some way, shape, or form. They didn't want them going out of business. They didn't want to lose them when we needed to start back up. And in our case, we do have the local guy who gives us a great bid and we didn't want him to go under. What I did do though with McCarthy is negotiate a savings, so kind of an amendment to the contract that we had with him. First, he promised he wasn't laying off staff, because I said, if you're laying off staff, then I'm not paying you. Which is the Sturbridge crew, bus drivers, we're still paying them. They're doing things like professional development, DOT training. They're cleaning the vehicles. They're taking them out every now and then, running them to make sure they are still running and not just sitting there, not even idle, not running. McCarthy's doing the same thing with his staff, keeping them busy. But what we negotiated, we agreed that we needed to decrease something for, if nothing else, the gas that wasn't being used and not a whole lot of supplies. So what I did was negotiate a lower amount for the last 3 months than the actual contracted amount. That will result in $10,000 savings. So the line item in your budget will have a $10,000 balance unspent. I will give my little editorial right now to say, I think that when all is said and done is money that should absolutely be turned back to the town. Transportation is actually outside of net school spending. It's not one of your net school spending categories. It's the town's, obligation to support in addition to. So plus, I think when all is said and done, most of us know the hard work that's happening in the schools. We're still teaching. Anybody with kids knows We're still teaching, aides are still supporting. Cafeteria workers are sending out, are spitting out bags of food for the needy. But anyone who doesn't have kids, there, believe it or not, there are some folks who think school's closed, I should be getting a tax refund. Because so we're fighting that. I think we'll fight it fine. But in all fairness, I don't think we want to stand up at town meeting and say we spent every single dime of the budget when we know there's a couple of categories that we absolutely aren't. We've saved in transportation, we've saved in the subline, and we haven't had any huge issues this year that have derailed our budget. So that's sort of my 2 cents worth, that we can talk about it today or we can wait until June, because we don't really make that decision until when I do that final journal entry and apply whatever we need of school choice to get through. I'm just suggesting, if nothing else, this transportation money should go back to the town. It'll roll into their free cash, and we can go after it for fiscal 22. The other thing, as we're getting to the end, we need to keep an eye on is, as I just mentioned a little while ago, we have been, since day one, been preparing food bags with both breakfast and lunch items for those who contacted us and said they need assistance. We were doing them on every Monday with a week's worth of food. Starting last week, we are doing Monday and Thursday, and on Thursdays giving food to get them through the weekend. So it's awesome. Your community really appreciates it. I think there's probably, maybe 33, 35 students in Holland. That sound right, Jen? And it's the right thing to do, but it's not bringing it. And ultimately, we finally did get approval from the state that we are going to get reimbursed for those meals. But we're not bringing in what we are when we're in school and pushing out a lot more meals, and yet we're still paying your staff. So the revolving fund is very likely going to end up in the hole, and we're going to need to use a little more than usual of your general fund money to clean it out at the end of the year. Any other questions on this year?
You mentioned that we'll be able to turn that $10,000 of the busing back to the town. Do you have a handle in round numbers what you think we're not going to spend in the 225 that we've appropriated?
Yeah, see, okay, so if I look now, and I'm totally kind of wild guessing things right now. You've got a document in front of you that says minus $127,000. So we've still got a little bit of work left to do. We've got to pay that cafeteria. I don't know how short they're going to be when all is said and done. Let me look what your thing is right now. Right now, it's sitting at $33,000 short, but we haven't gotten any reimbursement yet since March. So some of that's going to come back. So even if, say, there's 20,000, so I guess let me wild guess and say the line might say minus 150,000 as opposed to the 225. My suggestion will be that we transfer 160,000 of school choice, therefore having 10,000 to go back to the town.
Okay, and then the rest coming back to as the school choice account.
Yeah, but still spending less of school choice, and we knew that early on, which kind of helped us build next year's budget. So sure. I think we're still in a decent shape right now. Not knowing what the legislators are going to do for next year's budget is a little unnerving, but I think we're okay.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
So then I'll just quickly say next year, we know nothing. The only thing we know, the legislators are not apparently even close to deciding which of the whomping lost revenue figure they want to stick to. They've listened to every expert, some of them are the worst case, some of them are the optimistic. In the middle there's this $3, $4, $5 billion shortfall in revenue compared to this year, but they have not agreed on which one they're going to go with. And until they do that, they then won't go forward and work on a budget. So no one has said anything about what they think local aid and Chapter 70 will be. We certainly on our end are saying the only thing everybody agrees, the legislators agree, is Usually you get the governor's budget in January, and that is kind of the low point, and things move up. Everyone agrees that's not going to happen this year, and they've said governor's budget's been thrown out, we're starting from scratch. So my only Sally Sunshine moment right now will be, fortunately, Holland was not, remember how disappointed we were when we saw Chapter 70 and we said we weren't getting anything from this magical Student Opportunity Act? We were getting just about nothing. Well, that might help us a little bit if they turn around and say, we're going to level fund Chapter 70, and all of those who were going to get a lot of money are going to have to wait. If they level funded Chapter 70, we wouldn't have a whole lot less, but we're looking at the budget to see where we can tighten and squeeze, you know, if something like that happens and your town says they need us to come in lower. But no one has said that at all. So we're holding tight. We're looking at things. We're looking at both the elementary budget. We've been looking at the central office budget, at things that we could cut, as, you know, not knowing how deep things will get. And we're just going to slow and go. Your town, I have not heard anything yet as to what or if they're going to have their town meeting. Have any of you heard?
No.
Okay. So the only thing I did communicate with them is there is legislation that's gotten through the Senate and is waiting at the House that would allow a community to have their town meeting, at least the financial budget portion of it, outside of your town, specifically up here at the high school, where you could have a meeting socially distanced. So I shared that with all the communities. Two of them have, well, three of them actually have already reached out to locking in dates that they really would like to come up here and have their meeting in June. So I did just share that with Holland, and with any luck, maybe they'll consider at least still having their meeting by June 30th. Come up here. We've all been in your building. I'm sure in this auditorium, we could fit everybody who comes between the two levels there and be pretty spread out. So that's been put out there. They certainly could choose not to have a town meeting until the state comes up with a budget, but what that puts is the entire town in a 1/12 budget scenario where they're only allowed to spend 1/12 of their last year budget, which might or might not be what the town wants. But again, if the town doesn't have a whole lot sitting there in Chapter 70 and local aid as potential cuts, maybe they'll want to go forward and say, let's get this thing done and at least be operating in July and August. And if we need to come back in the fall because the state missed the mark and we have 9 seat cuts to deal with, we'll deal with it. So that's a lot for me to say that we don't know anything. Nor do we know what education looks like in September. What it looks, you know, what would we have to do? We're still waiting to hear what the governor says next week about what phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 will be. So we're just gonna, you know, try and maybe after Monday, build a little more plan.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
We'll keep you all posted on everything money related.
All right. I've been feeling a little jealous. I feel like we got a rock star rolling around with sunglasses on in the limo. And we got a report coming in from the back 9 now, too.
There you go.
All right. Communications, unless anybody has any other financial questions. Communications it is.
We put in there a sample of the little flyer that goes in every food bag that kind of lists the meals. And Missy, the food manager up here, has been just adding an activity on the back there for the kids. So we just wanted you to have an example of that. We thought it was a really nice
Awesome.
added
Yeah,
touch
thanks
to
for
those food bags.
including it.
Yep.
And then just the article from Tony Bent. He was our facilitator from the fall retreat, if you recall, and he forwarded that to us and suggested we send it all to you.
All right. Principals report.
All right, well, we are holding steady. I have to give, before we even start the official report, the greatest shout out in awe of the Holland staff. They have been amazing. I know, Eli, you have a child in the building, so you've got to experience some of it, but overall, what paras and teachers and support staff and office staff that everybody has done through this remote learning and a job we never even knew existed. I just feel really, really, really proud of everything everyone's done. So that's just my public statement of them. Moving into the principal's report, we have just the typical school updates. Numbers are pretty much the same. School choice application information I added to the packet, and we went as agreed upon in, I think it was the March meeting. I don't even remember anymore. So in March we had agreed upon. So you'll see that we have our letters of acceptance or regret sent, and that people are saying yes, please, and no, thank you. The only grade that we have pending for the school choice conversation is kindergarten. And I did include some kindergarten update information for us to look at. As seems to be the story in the past few years, kindergarten just keeps, no matter what happened, like it just keeps toiling. So today, this very moment in time, we have 22 Holland residents registered for kindergarten. So we do have 7 school choice applicants. 1 is a sibling and 2 are currently at our pre-K. They were there and then they had moved out. So at this exact moment, I'm not comfortable recommending any school choice because it looks as if we would be heading toward 1 class and adding the school choice. And this is, of course, assuming no one's moved out, nobody goes to OSV. It's in every school choice person says yes. It only brings us to 29, and we can't even guarantee all those 22 are staying because that's what happened a couple of years back. So at this point, I'm not recommending any, or I'm recommending we just wait on the vote at this point.
Okay.
We do have one, we were notified by OSV that there was one accepted Holland resident for a new kindergartner. We won't know till we get our next update whether they've accepted or not, but there is one there. And we actually think, as Jen indicated, that we have a homeschool family whose older children are inquiring about homeschooling, and they have a rising kindergartner as well. So 20 seems right now like a more reasonable number than 22, but still not really enough to take in school choice students to be supported by a second class. It's just not enough of them.
Okay.
So projected class sizes for next year. I know that's always a hotbed of conversation, so I figured I would just put it on paper for us. We look quite nice, actually. So we'll have 3 classes of 1, which is what we've had in the past few years. And then the classes that we have of 2 are remaining steady. I think with all towns that we're anticipating some move in and move outs, that it wouldn't be super surprising that some families move in together with the economic hardship. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out in the fall. And finally, our remote learning update. Again, incredibly proud of the work that Holland is doing. And it's amazing how strong our parent partners are, where, we're used to controlling our 6 hours and now we're partnering with parents through this. And they really, really have stepped up. And I know it's not easy. They're at home, they're working, they're doing a great job. So I give hats off to them too. I kind of outlined just some big points. Phase 1 happened. We sent home packets, checking in. The food has been every week, Deb, I think we increase, right? The amount of days we're feeding. And then we went into phase 2. And at that phase, there was more paper, but we started doing more virtual work. And the number that 40 families have borrowed Chromebooks is actually closer to 50 now. The more intense our online learning gets, that you know, there's just more of a need. And as parents start to go back to work, families can't all share one computer. So we're finding that we're like, gosh, we can help you with one thing. So, and then now we're in the remote learning where there's face-to-face lessons pretty much either daily or depending on the grade level. Check-ins, a lot of weekly meetings, and we got cleared out kids' desks and got them what they needed with the drive-up service. And it was probably the best time since this has started because I got to put eyes on kids and families and wave to them. And anybody who was there, it was this breath of fresh air of like, oh gosh, it was just great. So that's really it. I, don't want to spend too much time, but I'm happy to answer any questions or anything if anyone has any.
If I can just jump in, and I didn't mention earlier, when Jen mentioned how many Chromebooks we loaned out, it reminds me, we do have in the capital plan, which has already been voted, 1 cart more of Chromebooks. If more money loosens up between now and June 30th, I might look to get another cart. I am concerned in this world we are in right now and probably going to stay in for a bit, that we loaned out a lot of devices. We don't know what the condition they're going to come back in. And at any point in time next year, we could be back in a similar situation. Even if we were in and everything was fantastic in our miraculous world, we can't afford for some of those devices to come back and not function and be down devices. So unless there's a problem or any of you object, if I can squeeze a second cart to add to our inventory, I would like to do so.
How many do we have in the school now?
How many Chromebooks do you
I
have?
believe it's 76.
So that's like 3 carts or so?
We have 3 carts.
Were we going to take any out of circulation when we bought this other cart?
No.
No, we were just going to add 2. Right. We were just going to keep adding. We were working our way up to try and have at least a cart per grade, not necessarily 1-to-1, but at least a cart per grade, which with enough planning allowed anybody who wanted to have 1-to-1 lessons with a little bit of planning be able to do it. So we were building our way up there. So we could, if all goes great and these devices are not damaged or anything, then we could just get there faster. But getting some extra ones will just at least give us a little bit more strength and less worry as we loan things out that could get damaged.
How many come in a cart and how much is a cart?
Well, when we started this endeavor, our cart was about 25.
Okay.
Somewhere along the line, Mr. Rosso, and I will zing him because he happens to be sitting here, all of a sudden starts giving me quotes of $13,000, $14,000, and I say, how many devices is that? And it's 36. So I don't know when a cart became 36, and we never have a class size of 36, but that's how many the latest carts can handle. So for about 13 to 14,000, we would get a cart of 36.
Huh.
So would you suggest we wait to see how they come back, or do you suggest to be?
No,
a
I
little
would
more
suggest
proactive?
we're definitely getting one because it's on the capital plan. I'm asking if you folks are okay, and come June, it looks like we've got something, a little more money freed up in a couple of other lines, like maybe subs or utilities, that you give me the okay to get a second cart.
Yes. I'll make a motion if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yep.
I will make a motion to do what you just said about those things.
I'll
I will
second that. Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You got
Are you
that,
driving now?
Yeah. Laura, when you're parking lot,
No.
you gotta get in there a lot faster.
I'm in a parking lot. It's fine.
Can you make it more of a motion? What is it?
It's a motion to allow a
I'm gonna buy
cart
shit.
of Chromebooks to come from FY20 budget if funds are available.
Okay.
Yes, and Eric seconded that. So I'll ask, well, so we have to do a roll call vote?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Alden, yes.
Miller, yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
And Gillen, yes.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Sorry to have interjected there and brought you back to the finance world.
Yeah, I don't even know what report we're on anymore, so
We were just finishing the principal's report, I think, right?
I
You
think
done
so.
yet?
That was it.
Yeah.
Sure.
That works, yes.
We'll go with that. Okay, so unless there's questions, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I also want to thank everybody for all their super hard work. It's been exhausting, but amazing work on behalf of everybody involved, teachers, ed support, administrators, families, students adapting, really couldn't be done without everybody's support. So very, very thankful, as well as the school committees. Jen went over real briefly your highlights of your remote learning plan and what you've done. The last pivot for this school year is to that phase 3, where we're looking at identifying prerequisite standards that need to be taught in a more direct way to help prepare the students to be better elevated for success next school year. So that's our primary focus from last week through what will be the end of the school year. So I don't know if you have any questions. I did forward that last update from the commissioner to all the school committees, just to let you know what he was charging us with, not just for phase 3, but for phase 4, which is to prepare for what next year is going to look like from a public health standpoint to an educational standpoint, and kind of that intersection that we know is going to exist next year. As Deb indicated, we have no information at all updated from anyone regarding budgets, regarding even what will be open or freed up for gathering numbers or anything like that. But we will keep you posted if we hear anything. The June school committee meeting, I was going to ask if we knew about the town meeting, but it appears there hasn't been a new date, so we're just not sure about that. Our standing June school committee meeting would be June 11th, which we can have, or we can wait to see if we didn't have any need to meet by then and put it before the town meeting, assuming that that happens in June. But right now, I think we should probably stick with the 11th and then just see what we need. We might actually have some budget information by then, though, of course, no promises on that. So if we can just hold the date as our standing meeting, that would be terrific. Joint meeting reminder, it's May 26th. I think last month we were cautiously optimistic that that could happen in person. I'm not so cautiously optimistic at this point. But if it is able to happen, we would obviously socially distant and be up here at the junior high. But if not, we will have the 36 people on Zoom plus the other folks. So that will be interesting. And that meeting is scheduled for 6 p.m. That will look at the superintendent's evaluation. There's also a reorganization, as well as possible updates to the school calendar for next year. We're hearing that there might be a new holiday, as it would be for a day if the Boston Marathon is able to happen. The governor has talked about the possibility of needing to have a holiday that day. But we'll keep you posted, because we haven't seen one thing in writing. We don't know if that was just somebody throwing out the idea that there was no way we could have the Boston Marathon if we didn't have the day off. So who knows? Who knows? More to come on that. And then finally, the CARES Act. We did receive funding from the federal government funneled through the state. We were told to anticipate roughly 80% of last year's Title I funds. And when we received the actual notice, it was a bit higher. So Holland will receive $24,421 in relief. This can be spent on anything related to the pandemic, anything from cleaning to needed PPE to remediation for students, truly anything. And we have until June 30th, 2022 to spend it. So it's not a tremendous amount of money, but I think what they're telling us is to wait, see what your needs are as it relates to reopening of school and the pandemic, and then see where we all are. So we'll be back to you on suggestions for that once we have a better sense. We won't need it for this year. Some districts actually, due to the cost of cleaning and additional time, they needed their money for fiscal 20, but we're going to opt to use it in fiscal 21.
How much was the amount again?
$24,421.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that is all I have. We are continuing to just move forward through the end of the year. And then there's a little bit down under new business that I'll speak to as well.
Okay. Public access, where are you? Well, at least that hasn't changed. Unfinished business.
Laura could throw in somebody out there on the beach.
At least she had enough decency to turn the camera.
Yes.
I know she did. It was
getting painful.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thanks. Oh, now she just hung up on us. She's done with us.
Jody.
All right, well, that's fine. So I'm guessing we have no unfinished business. Let's go to new business.
So just a few things I do need your support, a formal support for. First is the teacher evaluation process. Because of the closure of school, we are unable to follow the negotiated timelines around teacher evaluation as well as evidence and process. So just looking for your support formally to allow me to continue to work with the teacher unions and ed support unions to kind of adapt those timelines for the current situation.
I think we fully endorse you working with and supporting unions.
Okay, well,
Agreed.
You need us to vote on that?
that would be great, thanks.
I move
Do I have a
to
motion?
do. I move to do what she said.
Allow me to work with the union.
You're welcome, Charlotte.
Charlotte needs more. To support the superintendent working with the unions.
Regarding evaluation process and timelines for the current year.
And
Exactly.
That's what I said. I moved what she said.
Exactly what Eric said. I have a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor, roll call vote. Eric,
Aye.
Cheryl,
Yes.
and me too, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
The 2019-20 school calendar, I feel like every month we vote on a change to this, so this should not be surprising. It is on, I think, sincerely. Because we worked through April vacation and on Good Friday, we will need to adapt formally the school calendar. Usually if we make up snow days, those days have already been built in and voted back when we vote the calendar. So this was a total change. So I do need your formal support to endorse the change of the calendar, which would put us at the last student remote learning day of June 12th and the last faculty staff day, June 15th.
May I just ask a question on that? If
Certainly.
you don't mind, because
Yep.
so we lost all this time
Mm-hmm.
and we're not going to go to the 187th day of school. How did the math work to get
You
us
have-
to go actually backwards rather than
Because
go to
you
the
have
last
a
day of school?
you have a contract that says teachers work 183 days. So with the professional development days and the instructional days, the typical year will have instructional days of 180. So these remote learning days are counted as school days because the teachers are working.
The law, Eric, only, the law requires students walk in the building, well, so to speak, get educated 180 days, but that you build a calendar that shows 187 in case you need to go that far to get your 180 days. It's all
Right.
about the 180 days of teaching. And
Oh,
even though
just-
there were
just
4
clicking
days
the
in
days off.
December,
Yes.
yeah, so the 4 days in December didn't need to be made up in June because they were made up in April.
Okay. It's just a little, because
It
I've
is
had people
funky.
ask me,
Yeah.
They're like, how did this happen? We lose all this time essentially.
Yeah.
So
It's
why
this
did,
whole, yeah, it's been out there forever. There's this whole misconception and understanding about snow days in general. The bottom line is every single year you start counting at 1, and when you get to 180, you're done.
Right.
Kids teaching, 183 for teachers.
yeah, okay, thank you. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I believe we need a motion.
Yes, please.
Who's up for a motion?
I'm up for motion.
Okay.
I'll second that.
I move we accept that the final day of teaching is June 12th and the teacher's day is the 15th.
Second.
Okay. Got his motion. I have a second. Roll call vote.
Hiller, yes.
Raymond, yes.
Gillen, yes.
Thank you. And then finally, the superintendent evaluation process. You all should have received the email that included the updated documents on goals and then standards and indicators, as well as the Survey Monkey, the tool to put in the evaluation. And Greg sent that yesterday, I think. It's all a blur, but I think it was yesterday to your email. The chairs asked that they be completed by May 20th, which is only in a week, but the short timeline is hopefully motivation to have people just do it and, you know, and complete it. So,
Okay.
and that's that. That
All
reminder.
right. Does anybody have any other new business?
Does anybody else in Holland have internet right now?
I'm at work still, so
Right at this moment, are people losing it?
Marissa has it, she said. Oh,
Yeah, I was kicked off, and now we don't have internet, but I'm on because this is a Verizon line.
Hmm.
But I didn't know if anyone
have
else
it.
was on in Connecticut or in Holland.
I'm not in Holland, so
oh, there you go. I don't know if this is school, I don't know if this is school committee business, Eric, but you know, point of order.
Well, it's, yeah. Fire me, please. I
I'll
can't attend another meeting. Oh no.
I'll just make one comment for if you do or you don't.
I do.
Okay, good. That'll be close to me. Then I'll have one I can home. I don't care about Eric. I'll say for me, my one day, or not for me, I guess, but for my son, I don't think he realized how much he actually missed school until he went in on the day to get his stuff. And then he came home like, yeah, this isn't, I'm not all that keen on this anymore. I would rather be at school. So that's when it first hit him. But beyond that, I think you guys have been doing an amazing job. I'm just going to work a ton of hours because I do not want to be home with him or the wife because they're both going. Just keep doing what you're doing. You guys are doing great. So
Thanks.
unless anybody has anything else, I will entertain a motion to say goodbye.
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
second.
Roll call vote.
Roll call out.
Eric, yes.
Cheryl, yes.
Gillen, yes. Have a good night.
great.
Night,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.